Hello, everyone. There's been a lot of questions, so I'm going to just jump on a live really quick. I did not take a shower today. I don't have any makeup on. This is me being real life. So if you guys, I did a mask today, so my face is a little bit red, but I was like, you know what? Let's just go real life. We don't always have to have our makeup on. We don't always have to have our filters on. We can just be real life. So I posted a few things earlier this afternoon or just a little bit ago about the Jed and Katie situation. And I wanted to just come on here and clarify. I already noticed that Reddit was talking about it. And I think Reddit is starting to realize that I'm not making this kind of stuff up because I don't feel like you should make these kinds of things up. Like, you probably shouldn't start rumors. You should probably have sources that know people and can verify things. So, obviously, because of my coverage, I get people that are circling around the Duggars, that are friends of the Duggars, that are connected to the Duggars, that are family, loose family, that are, and then when a new person comes in, whether it's, a man or a woman, oftentimes family members of the partner will come forward, friends, family, whatever. So today, I saw the video about Jed, right? And I was like, this is weird. This ceremony seems really weird. The engagement felt different. It felt like they were walking into something that was very formal. It felt like they knew what was about to happen. It didn't seem like there was like some sort of surprise, like, I'm getting down on one knee. And there was this like utter lack of emotion by both of them. Like, it didn't seem like they did this like awkward side hug, and it just felt really bizarre. Like, even with like, I can think of like the girls, like with Derek and Jill, there was a lot more emotion. With Jessa and Ben, there was a lot more emotion. Ginger and Jeremy, obviously, we know how Ginger felt about Jeremy. So when I saw how like clinical it was, I was like, they're so weird. It felt staged. It felt like awkward. And then you see them and they're not holding hands. And so I'm like, okay, something's going on here. And then yeah, they didn't hold hands. Then the vows were really weird. And I was like, what is this? Are these purity vows? Well, actually, no, that's not what they were doing. So what happened was this afternoon, I get a DM. About Jana is dating someone. Now, that was also confirmed to me today, too. So she is courting someone, and apparently, before we get into the Jed stuff, here's what I was told today. Jeremiah, Jason, Jana, and Jed all are in relationships right now, and apparently the Duggars are being really weird about all of it. So I don't know who Jason is courting, but I was told that he's involved with someone. Jeremiah, I'm assuming, is courting Hannah Wisman, and I'm assuming that Jana is courting Stephen Wisman. I had people reach out to me that saw Jana and Stephen at an event around Valentine's Day at some sort of church in Arkansas. And there's like this like smaller church that some of them go to where they keep everything very like the Duggars, obviously, with their presence, they have to find churches that will not like push them out or like, will like help them keep their privacy. So I guess there's like some local churches around there that Jana and this guy could go to, and people would not like put out that stuff. So apparently they were seen around Valentine's Day. Anyways, and it's Stephen Wisman. And with Jeremiah, it's assumed, though not confirmed, that it's Hannah Wisman. And then I'm still waiting to figure out with Jason, because the person told me that one of the Duggars is dating someone from the Pratt family, but I'm not sure who. And I don't know what girl. The Pratt family is humongous. There's like several of them. They're like this humongous fundamentalist family. They have a church. And then there's all these different like adults that have like large families. So they have a church called like the Friendly or I don't even remember. It's all in my DMs. Yeah, so Jana and Jeremiah are likely dating siblings. So there's that. Yeah, there's so much tea tonight, you guys, so much. And so I want to assure you guys that, like, when I'm giving you guys information, I vet my sources and I make sure that they are who they say they are. I have been able to verify specifically. And one of the sources is one of the people that you're getting so much of this from. I mean, they've sent me photos. It's who I got the invitation from. They're very connected to this, all of this. So there are plenty of people that are around the Duggars that will talk. So here's the deal about Jed before I go like so far off the wall. So earlier today, to get back to it, and I'll do like a video on all of this, but there's so much right now. It's like I feel like I'm having a Duggar explosion. And I apologize on my channel if there's just so much Duggar content, but it's just like I have so many Duggar sources that are like coming forward right now, and they're all reliable. So earlier today, I ended up, now, by the way, yeah. By the way, get your drinks ready. Do you got your tea? I'm drinking a beer tonight. Get your tea, get your coffee, get your juice. Let's have some fun. Okay. So this afternoon, I get a message from someone, and they are friends with somebody connected to Katie Nikatsu. And here's what the tea is on Katie Nikatsu. So Katie's parents, Kimberly and Corey, they're divorced. And I guess Corey and his first wife, Kimberly, had a split over religion. So Corey is in the IBLP, and he's like a devout Christian. And I guess Kimberly, the ex-wife, that's Katie's mom, is a Mormon. And I guess I'm told that when Kimberly, Katie's mom, joined the LDS church, Corey was not cool with that, and she didn't want to leave the church. And so they ended up breaking up, I guess, over their faith. And Corey and the kids are still very much into the IBLP world. So Corey's Christian, Kimberly is Mormon, Katie's Christian. Corey has been very much part of the IBLP for a long time. He's remarried to a woman with a K name. I think her name is Carrie, and she's the stepmother. I think she's mostly I think she still has a relationship with her biological mom. I just don't know to what extent. And I also don't know how involved she is in all of this. But the person I talked to said that this arrangement was complete, their marriage was totally arranged. So they basically said that it's a financial arrangement, and I don't know what that means. I'm guessing maybe a dowry, maybe. I have no idea. But they arranged the two of them, and it's a betrothal. So it's different than a courtship. And when you are arranged or betrothed to someone, it's totally different in the fundamentalist world. You need a new beer? Get those beer. This beer is called Mexican Honey. It's by Indeed Brewing Company. It's an imperial lager. No, I have a theory about why he's trying to marry off Jed. And I think it has to do with political stuff. But anyways, so here's what I was told. I was told it was a royal fundy wedding. So apparently Corey is wealthy. And Corey has a lot of condos that he owns. He is a property owner, and then he has a flight school that he owns. His grandmother and his grandfather are actually immigrants from Japan. So Corey is very into his Japanese heritage. His father is 100% Japanese. His grandmother's name was Tomi, and his grandfather's name was Koryo. And so Corey actually made a movie. Wild, right? I watched the whole movie. His grandmother sounds pretty cool, actually. It's wild because I wonder if his grandmother would be like, this is so cool what you're doing or whatever. But anyways, so his grandmother is from a family in Japan that has like political ties. And I guess so his grandmother's uncle was in the House of Representatives in Japan. And he was in the House of Representatives for many terms, and he went broke. And he made a lot of money while he was in the government, but he also like spent more money than he was making. And so what happened is that the grandfather or the uncle, his great uncle, right? That's right. His great uncle ends up like basically his great uncle basically gets the family in a really financial crisis. And so what happens is his grandmother's father, and the way that inheritance works in Japan, I learned so much today. Thank you, Corey. The way that inheritance works in Japan is that it goes to like the eldest son. And so his uncle was the eldest son. And so their grandfather was really wealthy. So Tomi's dad or Tomi's grandpa was very wealthy, and he had like a mansion, and he had like, I don't even know what he did. I am not sure what he did in Japan, but he was very wealthy, and they had like political connections. And when the dad passed away, the uncle was supposed to inherit everything based on Japanese like inheritance traditions. Like the oldest son is supposed to get everything. And so her dad, Tomi's dad, was underneath in terms of like the age. I know it's very confusing. So anyways, Corey is our hero with all of this information. Yes, here, I'll show you some photos so you can see. Okay. So this is his great-great-grandfather. So this is actually, So this is his grandmother's father. Okay. And then, no, actually, this is that's his grandmother in the white with the white. And then next to her is her father. Okay. And they came from a wealthy family in Japan. Okay. And and that's her. Okay. And she was the youngest daughter, I think, of them. Okay. So his grandmother was in Japan, and her dad, which I'll go back to the dad so you have some like frames of references here. So here's her with her dad. So her dad is her brother and her. She's got an older sister, and she's got like two brothers, and then there's her, and she's the youngest girl, okay? And her dad's brother is the oldest of the family, and he is set to inherit all of the family's wealth, okay? But he ends up going into politics. So her uncle in the white, that's Tomi, her uncle goes into politics, and he ends up he spends a ton of money, and he basically squanders the family's fortune. So in order for the family to get right, Tomi's father, who has the bow tie on, sent her brother to the United States to work to help pay off the uncle's debt so that they didn't lose the family mansion, okay? So once they send the son to the United States, what happens is they realize that Tomi, who is going to school, and she just doesn't like, she's going to school in Japan, and they move around to get her a better education. They actually arrange her to be married to another family, another prominent family that is from Japan, but this guy is already in the United States. So at the time, what happened is that she couldn't go over there until she was married to him. So they sent a picture, and she was called a picture bride. And so basically what they would do is if there was a Japanese immigrant here, the families would exchange photos. And I'm sharing all of this with you so you understand why arrangement is a part of this family's history. So her parents exchange a photo with the other parents, and neither one of them see photos until they actually meet each other. It's crazy. But her husband's family comes from another family that's sort of prominent in the area. So in order to get her over there, they marry her in Japan without her ever meeting him so that she can go over on an immigrant visa. And then when she comes, she enters the United States through San Francisco, and she goes through like Angel Island. Okay. And once they get to Angel Island, she meets him for the very first time, and they get formally married in the United States. Okay. So then I'm just sharing this all so you understand. So Katie's family is, her grandparents are her great-grandparents are Japanese. Corey, her dad, is really into this Japanese history. And when they come here to the United States, his grandmother and her grandfather, they open this market. Angel Island, yes. They open a market, but there's so much. They talk about the internment camps. They were never put in the internment camps, but they came here before the war. And it's just a really interesting, I was like, why am I even watching this? But it was actually kind of fascinating if you like want to know the history of like some Japanese immigrants that didn't go to internment camps and what they had to go through. It was pretty rough. They like lived in restricted areas and stuff. And so it was basically talking about like during all of that time, they met a woman that was a reverend, and that's how they converted from Buddhism to Christianity. And so even though they converted from all of the from Buddhism to Christianity, he is still like really into, they opened a market. Yeah. So not only did they open a market, but they farmed. So they moved to California for a period of time, and they did farming, and they couldn't own property at the time because they weren't allowed to become citizens, and because there was such extensive racism against Japanese Americans at the time. So they ended up farming for a while. Then they moved to Arizona, and they still weren't able to buy property, but they were able to rent some farming land. And then during the internment area, during the war, they were never put in the internment camps, but their neighbors who were Caucasian basically took care of them. And so their neighbors, they weren't allowed to go like shopping. They couldn't go get groceries. They weren't allowed to sell their produce. And they had all of these people that were like Caucasian around them that were like helping them basically survive, which is awesome. It's like awesome to hear these kinds of stories that there was like people way back in the day that were doing things to help this family. And apparently over time, they save all of their money. She gets really freaked out, and they're not allowed to put any money in the bank during this whole time. And this is, I don't know, I'm just sharing this. This is just wild stuff. Anyways, they're not allowed to put any money in the bank during this time. And she apparently cashes out all of her money. She puts it in $100 bills, and she puts it into a mason jar, and she buries it underneath a tree in her yard, because during this time, Japanese Americans were not allowed to use the banks. So anyways, once the war is over and Japanese Americans were allowed to become citizens, she ended up going to get the money, and she ends up buying some property. So after they buy the property, she's able to rent some space, and they open a market. And so their farm had been where they just where they just sold their produce, and it turned into where they just had like a roadside stand, and then it turned into a market, and it was called Nakatsu Ranch Market. And it was open for years and years and years. And apparently his grandmother, Tommy, was his grandfather was like really laid back, and like his grandmother was like the force. Okay. So anyways, his father, Frank, he has this tie to his Japanese heritage. And so his grandparents both end up passing away. So his grandfather passes away, I think, in like 1967. And even though they were arranged, they had 9 kids, and they were still like, they loved each other, they respected each other. The kids were interviewed, and even the kids said that their parents had a really good relationship. They didn't like, the dad was like really supportive of the mother. So anyways, his dad then marries his mother. So his dad, his name is Frank, and I think they had 2 boys, Jimmy and Frank. Isn't it weird that I know all these names? So Jimmy and Frank, both of them have since passed away, but Frank was married to a white woman. So they're 100% Japanese, and he marries a white woman, and her name was Elsie. And he and Elsie, Frank and Elsie, have like 2 kids, I think. And so of those kids is Corey. And then they get divorced. How do I hold all of this information? It's a steel trap. I love learning this kind of stuff though. Like if I'm interested in something, you guys, I'll watch somebody's genealogy video. This was fascinating to me, honestly. Like I didn't know much about, I felt like I learned a lot about internment time. You know, you don't really like ever see things from the immigrant perspective. It's fascinating to me. My grandparents were immigrants, and I always think like, God, it would be so cool if I could see like a video about my grandparents. You know, they came from Germany, and I would love to see something like that, but nothing like that exists for me. So I feel like sometimes I'm like, I want to watch other people's stuff. So anyways, he is really into, even though they're Christians, he's very attached to that history, right? His father is Japanese, so he's half Japanese, obviously, and he has his grandmother that he absolutely loves, and his grandmother was known to like make food and take care of the whole community. And I can share you a link. Like when I make a video on YouTube, I'll share you the whole link. It's hard to share links on Instagram. So anyways, he's really into, I think the arrangement, long story short, I think the arrangement aspect of it comes from his Japanese history or his heritage, because it's not uncommon in Japanese culture that like parents arrange marriages with their kids. And so I think this betrothal comes from his Japanese heritage, but they converted to Christianity because the family became friends with a reverend who was Christian, and they gave up Buddhism, and then his grandmother became very active in the Christian church. So he has a very strong connection to his grandma, who was in an arranged marriage, and I think that's kind of where this all comes from. So anyways, what I'm told about this arrangement specifically, so I guess that whole backstory is to sort of say to you guys that it has to do, I think some of this comes from like the dad's heritage. So anyways, the woman from the mom's side, or from Katie's side, basically says that Corey and Jim somehow arranged this, and it's a financially driven fundamentalism royalty type wedding. Corey and his family are wealthy. They have a lot of money. Jim Bob obviously is wealthy. And, you know, there's a financial incentive here. Now, why would Jed get arranged? My theory, and nobody has confirmed this, so obviously this is my speculation here, is that Jed has political aspirations. And he recently ran for office and lost. And I think part of the reason he lost not only was because of his age, but was because he lacked real life experience. And so my guess is Jim Bob wants to get him married. He lost his political kid with Josh, right? So his next option now for the Duggar empire in politics is Jed. And in order for Jed to do that, they got to get Jed married. So why was the whole, he wasn't married. Exactly. Like it looks better from a political perspective for him to get married. And then by the next time he runs, he can be married, he can have a kid, this thing, right? So anyways, you love me. Thank you. So anyways, why was that arrangement why was the video so weird? Okay, so how betrothals work. And this is what, now on the flip side, my fundy friend, they're so sweet. I love the fundy friends that and can I tell you guys secrets? There's fundies that send me all kinds of messages, and they're like on the verge of leaving the fundy world, but they're friends with the Duggars, and they watch this content because they are like starting to reevaluate how they think about things. And so they told me tonight that they're sort of like starting to realize a lot of the things that they've been learning their whole life are really effed up. And I was like, this is working. So I want to create a space where people that are considering leaving, that's why I try not to be super snarky and rude, because I want to be kind to the people that might, leave an open door policy. You know what I mean? So anyways, what this person told to me today was this. It's a fundy snitch. So anyways, on Reddit, they're all like, who are these people that are coming forward? I'll tell y'all, it's fundy snitches. The fundies are snitching. Okay, so anyways, here's what's happening. So they said, you know what? I was watching a bunch of your videos, and I watched the engagement video. And I was like, yeah. And they're like, that's a betrothal. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, that's a betrothal. And I was like, okay. So basically what a betrothal is it matches exactly what the person on Katie's side told me. And it was this, that on Katie's side, they said it was an arrangement. Well, a betrothal is an arranged marriage, and at the engagement, so they've already decided that they're going to be together, right? The parents have arranged it, which is why everything looks so weird and formal, right? Like they walked in, it was so it looked like clinical to me. Like they're just walking down and they're like, we're going to go sit down, and I'm going to just get down on one knee, and there's not going to be any tears. And then I'm going to say yes. And then we're going to go and then we're going to do a weird side hug where we look like we have zero chemistry and we don't even really know each other. Anyways, so basically what the fundy told me was that in a betrothal, the parents set the rules, and it's like no touching. It's an arrangement. The parents arrange you. You are at the betrothal ceremony. You are not allowed to announce you're even in a relationship until the engagement. And then the engagement is actually a commitment ceremony. So the commitment ceremony is where they actually say vows to each other. And so that's what you heard in those things. Those weren't purity vows. Those were a vow of betrothal. So they're vowing to commit to one another to their union. No touching until the wedding night. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. The reason why we did not hear about Lauren Caldwell and Titus Hall is because that was a betrothal too, but it didn't work out in the long run. Oh God, and I've got some tea about Paul Caldwell and Jim Bob Duggar. They do not like each other. You guys, there's so much tea. I guess Paul and Jim do not like each other, and there was a huge blow up at their church last year. Okay, so anyways, the side hug was just an awkward side hug. Anyways, so yeah, they don't spell. Oh, there's so much. There's so much. I don't even know where to start. It's all over the place. I know, there's so much. Thank you to all of my fundy sources. And to any of you that are watching, just know that my DMs are always open. I am respectful. I am kind. I am loving to every single person. I have so many people I talk to that I don't agree with politically. I don't agree with spiritually, but we can still be kind to each other. And at the end of the day, like, I feel like you cannot have growth and help people leave a fundamentalist mindset if you're rude to them and mean to them. All right. So let me finish out on the Jed tea, and then we'll get to the Jim Bob tea. So here's, so here is the, so that was a commitment ceremony, basically. And I don't know if you noticed this, but in her vows, people were all like, oh, that's so sweet. No, she basically vowed to Jed that she would view him the way that Christ views the church. And she said the way that, like, as the church prepares for Christ, basically being like the church serves Christ, she said that she would be looking to Jed as her leader. So she is committing to submission. I encourage you guys to re-listen to her vows, and you will literally hear her commit to basically saying, like, I'll let you own me. And he basically says, like, I will own you. It's so creepy and weird, but that's the betrothal way. Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Okay. So anyways, that's why they looked awkward and weird, and that's why it looked like a clinical engagement. So long story short, owning is not love. It's not. So you guys, can I just talk to you guys about something? It's not sweet to pledge to your person that they can own you. That's not sweet. There's nothing sweet about that. There's nothing sweet about you having to, like, worship your husband. You're basically telling your husband, you are my God. That's gross. This is definitely submission ownership. Beauty lush babe. Please find help if you believe that it's not. And nobody should be submissive to anyone, period. In this cult, women have no rights. Okay, now let's get on to Jim Bob and Paul. Apparently, Jim Bob and Paul don't get along. And I guess the Duggars left Paul's church last year. I'm still trying to figure out why. But there was this huge dust up, and it had to do with the nursery, who was going to run the nursery. And I guess Jim Bob and Paul pretend like they're friends for, like, the wider public, but their personalities completely clash. And Jim Bob was letting Paul live in his house for free for years. Paul Caldwell, Kendra Caldwell's dad. And now, I know, so Jim was letting Paul live in his house for free. Paul was working for Jim, but not paying Paul what he should have been being paid. And then they have this dust up at church, and the Duggars leave Paul's church, and the Duggars' friends all go with them. And now Paul's church only has like 30 people that are at the church, and some of the Duggars are going back, but a lot of them are still not there. And Paul and Jim are trying to, like, cordially, like, reconnect their relationship. But I guess now Paul and mind you, Paul's wife, Christina, is pregnant with her 9th child. He has not paid rent on his own house, I guess, in years. And now he's living in the house that is supposed to be Kendra and Joe's house. So Kendra and Joe got a house, I guess, from, like, Jim Bob. And they, like, sacrificed that house. And Kendra and Joe are letting their parents live there. And I guess they're living there for free. So long story short, Paul Caldwell and Christina Caldwell don't like to pay rent, or they, like, don't have the money to buy their own house, or they don't have enough money to, like, pay for their own stuff, allegedly. And they don't even have money to, like, build a house. And Kendra and Joe are letting them live in their house, I guess. And I guess for a while, Kendra and Joe were barely on speaking terms with Jim Bob and Michelle because of the fight between Paul and Jim. Oh, I love you guys. I know. I'm like, Paul, put on a condom. You can't clearly afford your family. Stop having kids. So I guess Jim Bob and Paul got into a fight last year, allegedly. And Paul had been living in Jim Bob's house for free for years. And then suddenly Jim Bob wanted to make him pay rent. No, not the log house. Are they in the log house? I don't even know. I need a bigger glass. So apparently Joe and Kendra were not really even on speaking terms with the Duggars for like a whole while the Paul and Jim Bob were fighting. So the Caldwells did have to move. Yes. No, so Kendra and Joe built a house and the Caldwells live in it. They don't even live in the house they built. They gave it to their parents. And then once the parents can afford to buy their own house, Kendra and Joe can have the house again. Can you imagine your dad is so broke? You're like, dude, you can live in my house. And I don't know why I'm still trying to figure out why Jim Bob and Paul don't like each other. I guess their personalities clash because they're both kind of narcissists. I'm going to do a video on all of this. There's so much. The house, yes. So it was really awkward too because the house is on the Duggars property. So Kendra, Joe, and the parents were like all living on the property, and it was super awkward because they weren't on speaking terms, I guess. I love fundies that spill, man. I don't know. I'll have to ask them. The person I talk to is friends with all of these people. I know. When they were telling me this, you guys, I was like, dude, Paul Caldwell needs to wear a damn condom and stop getting Christina pregnant if he can't afford a house. I'm picturing Kendra. Okay. So then I said, so here's some more tea. Okay. So Kendra was dating Jed Duggar. Did you know that? So Kendra and Jed were like dating for a while. And they split. But I guess Jed also was like, Joe was into Kendra at the same time. So when it fell apart, he swooped in and got Kendra, right? So Kendra and Joe got together after Jed and Kendra had been courting. And they got married. Can you imagine taking your siblings scraps? Like, it didn't work out, you can have her. But I'm actually told that, so this is what I said to him. I was like, oh, but that's probably better for Kendra because Jed looks like kind of a prick. Like, Jed seems like arrogant to me. He does. He comes off as super arrogant to me. And they're like, yeah, he's kind of an arrogant jerk. And I was like, see, I told you. Joe is apparently really, really nice, like a really nice guy. And I said, you know who else seems really nice is John David. And they said, John David is awesome. And I was like, I knew it. I knew John David was a good guy. I knew it. I know everyone's lost. There's so much tea spilling right now. I think Joe's an upgrade too. So Joe is actually a pretty nice guy. He's also really thoughtful and just laid back, easygoing. John is apparently really, really nice. I guess Josiah is really hard to handle. And there's lots of rumors about Josiah being not into women. So there's that. And then I hate speculating on that kind of stuff, but it keeps coming up with people I talk to. And then, let's see. Jason is apparently courting someone, but Justin's kind of a jerk, and so is Jason. And apparently Joanna is super stuck up, according to the source. Jill is really sweet. We already knew that. Oddly, Jessa is nice. Shocking. And James is getting better. So apparently the younger Duggar boys are kind of snooty and stuck up. And if you think about it, they started getting famous when some of those littles were like babies, like toddlers. So they've grown up kind of like different than their older siblings. So I guess like James and Justin and Jason and Jackson, I guess they're kind of like jerky, I guess, apparently, and cocky and just full of themselves, apparently. So the only thing they said about Jana was for the longest time, they started to believe the rumors that Jana was dating Laura because nothing made sense about her. But they say Jana's nice. But they also said that Jana doesn't do as much around the house as you think she does. So there's these long rumors that they say that Jana like takes care of the kids, and they said that that's absolutely not true. They said that she doesn't do the schooling that's on Michelle. She said that they said that Jana's gone most of the time, doing her own thing with friends. She's not around the house very much. So this idea that Jana's holding the house together is apparently not true. She's rarely around, from what I'm told. But I guess, like, even people in the circles were, like, convinced that Jana was just not into girls or into guys, and that's why it's been going on for all this time. But anyways, Jana is now dating someone, that Stephen guy. So Jana is not staying for the kids. That's not a thing. And apparently, do you want to hear why Josh and Anna moved out of their house? I guess it had black mold. That's the story they told people. So they owned a house after Josh got out of rehab, and they had to get rid of the house because it apparently had black mold. And then they sold the house. So apparently they're now living on the property of like the Duggars, and even friends can't figure out why Josh hasn't left the property. Yeah, they had black mold, allegedly. But the thing I think is weird is that the black mold, I know, how did they sell it if it had black mold? So maybe they told people that it had black mold, and then they like, but anyways, I think that's the story that they told people. I think they told people that it had black mold. I think that the raid happened at the lot, which they've not really told nobody, or like people in the Duggar land, like they've kept that really hush hush. Like nobody still to this day knows what that raid was about. They just know that Josh's property or his lot is now closed, and that Josh just doesn't really have a job anymore, and he just lives on the she shed with his wife. So basically they do the raid back in 2019, and then shortly after that, Josh dumps like all of his assets, and he sells his house, and he gets rid of like his car lot, and everything is gone. So it seems like, in a way, like they're trying to limit their financial stuff, you know what I mean? In the event that there's something that might happen. That's just my thought. That's, again, my speculation. That's my guess. Like, why else would you, after a raid, move back into mom and dad's house and get rid of all of your assets and all that kind of thing and, like, not have a job? Yeah, well, he has to start over. I don't know. People around them can't even explain why Josh and Anna are still there. They think it's weird. This is the best life ever. Will this be streamable later? I don't know. Should I like download this and put this on YouTube? No, on YouTube it will be so confusing. He doesn't have to start over. Free Anna. I know, free Anna. I don't know. Long story short, what do I think of Josh? Is that even really a question? Okay. I'm here tonight. I'm confused about the Caldwells living arrangement, right? Like, how is it possible? Maybe I will download this and put it on YouTube and you guys can just like sort through it. Although my YouTuber people will be like, you guys, they'll get so mad at me. So much Duggar tea. Okay. Anyways, Paul Caldwell and Jim Bob don't get along, apparently. There was a fight at the church over the nursery and some other things. Joe and his dad didn't talk to each other for a while. Josh is freeloading off the family. And Joe is dating Jed's leftovers. And Jed is arranged to be married. Jana's dating. Jeremiah's dating. Jason's dating. And nobody knows about it. No, the church wouldn't provide Paul a house because Paul is the church. I'm like sitting there talking to this person and I'm like, how does Paul Caldwell, who is like 40 years old, how can he not afford a damn house for his kids? How does he not afford a house for his kids? They are a soap opera. It's true. I don't know much about Ginger, honestly. They don't. All I know about Ginger and Jeremy is that Jeremy doesn't come home to Arkansas like ever. So Jeremy's only around if there's like a wedding. Otherwise, he does not visit the Duggars. So he's only there like for special events. Otherwise, Ginger goes there alone. And it's just assumed that Jeremy and Jim Bob just do not get along. I'm starting to realize that a lot of people don't get along with Jim Bob Duggar. Jeremy's parents live in Pennsylvania. But I'm starting to think that them talking about California all the time is that they might be leaving California. And a snarker on Duggar a snarker on Reddit made really good sense with this, is that they might be talking about California so much on their Reddits or on their Instagram stuff because right before they left Laredo, they did like a bunch of Laredo posts like this, and he is going to be done with his seminary stuff in May, I think. And I don't think they're going to stay in California because I believe they're staying at a house that's paid for by the school. So I think they're going to have to move out of California. Lauren Caldwell is 1,000% not dating any of the Duggars. That's what I was told. specifically. That's like how this relationship all started, was the person reached out to me and said, like, Lauren Caldwell is not with a Duggar. Duggar snark. I can't decide. Duggar snark sometimes likes me, and most of the time they hate me. But they think I'm lying, and they think I take things from their threads. But if I find something on there, I don't really go on there very frequently. Sometimes I check if I don't have time to check on all of the different people, because they do a really good job of like posting literally every single person on the Duggars, and I can just look there all in one swoop. Like I can see like their Instagrams and stuff, but they think that I take their like scoops from them, and that's just not true. I literally have people I talk to. Yes, Amy King's NDA is for life. Yeah, they literally hate me. They think I make everything up and I use their subreddit for everything. But I noticed they're starting to take me a little bit more seriously now. So I promise you, Reddit, I'm not making this stuff up. I literally have people that like are connected to all of these people. I have too much on the hand, and I like literally just got through a lawsuit. Like, you don't, in this line of work, like when you're an independent blogger, there's too much on the line to like make shit up. I can't show you guys proof of a source, but I showed you guys the invitation, and he really is getting married. It was true. Like that came from that source. So I don't know how much more proof you need. Like, these people are connected to them. You never like would tell a magazine to show you their proof. You don't out a source. You keep people's privacy because they don't want to be outed. They'll give you information, but they don't want to be identified because that puts them. How do I vet my sources? It's extensive. I have to verify that they actually know them. I have to verify through a variety of different methods. But yeah, like in this specific case, I have documented pictures of them with them, and they follow them and they follow them back. And they've been around them for years. I guess Jessa's house is like really in a bad spot too. It's like right by the freeway. And it's like so small. It's like in a really, like, Ben has a job now, sort of, but I guess he doesn't make very much money. I can't tell you guys why Amy is in this NDA. Like, I can't say anything. All I can say is there's a People article. So here's the Amy stuff. How do the Duggars not find out who the source is? Because do you know how many friends the Duggars have? There's a lot. They have a lot of fundamentalist friends that are around them constantly because of their church. So they have so many close friends. They have so many friends. Anyways, who asked the question? Oh, the NDA. There is a People article from when, think of it this way. I do give Duggar Snark credit whenever they take stuff, whenever I see stuff on there. The problem is they think that I see the same things that they do. So we all see the same things. We're all looking on the same Instagrams. I also know how to sleuth. So they'll be like, well, we sleuthed this. And I'm like, well, I check the same stuff you do. It's not like that. It's not rocket science to like sleuth. Okay. So anyways, the NDA comes from after Josh Duggar was outed for the assault of the girls and the Ashley Madison stuff. There's an article from People. You can go read it, or it's on In Touch. She wrote a blog about it. But she wrote a blog, and she found out with the world about what Josh did to his sisters. And she also found out with the world what he was doing on Ashley Madison and how he was cheating on women. So, if she found out with the world, that means her uncle and her aunt did not tell her mother that her nephew had assaulted her nieces, and Dina allowed Amy to be on the show not knowing that Josh had assaulted his sisters. And no, Amy was not a victim. Amy was not a victim. She was not the babysitter. She was never a victim of Josh. So she told People she found out with everyone else. How do you get out of a contract? Or like, she was on the show, she wasn't being paid, but she still has a contract with the network. Lauren is just shy and awkward in general. She was never, and she was not. It's both the same. She was not a victim of Josh, and she was never a victim of Josh. It's literally the same thing. Amy was not assaulted by Josh, ever. Amy would beat him up, for sure. They did put Amy in danger. They had to sign NDAs to get out of their stuff at TLC. They had to. They were not going to film anymore after what happened. After Jim lied to them, they were done. Amy is older than Josh. Like by 2 years, I think. I don't know anything about Amy, and no, the kids are not paid at all. It does make sense. If you know anything about TLC, it 1,000 million % makes sense. And then Jim Bob is his own business, and so anytime someone has a business and it's a family business, if you are part of that family business, that owner of the family business can say, you can't talk about me or I'll sue you. No, the minors, nobody's being paid. The kids are not being paid. No one gets money. You guys, my IG is going to stop now. I'm at the limit. It's telling me that it's going to end, so I got to go.